I've been on this issue for a long time. In other words, I'm an old man. And so I voted for the 86 Act, the Simpson-Mazzoli Act. I worked on it. And at the time, 3 million individuals were legalized. They called it an amnesty. And you know who signed that bill? Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan signed it. Alan Simpson, Republican, Romano Mazzoli, a Democrat. In those days, bipartisanship existed. And the only way you're going to get an immigration bill is if Republicans and Democrats get together. It doesn't look very good. And I will also say this, although I do think we, the Democrats, have a better record on immigration. I will, my little partisan streak will come out. But I will say to you, the best immigration bill that I've seen was when I was governor of New Mexico and I got briefed by the White House. It was by George W. Bush, and Noe Garcia used to be in the Bush, and he's here. I think that was the best bill, the one that had border security, a legalization with conditions, H-1B visas. And my main message, although I'm going to do a little history on the Immigration Act, is going to be about the H-1B issue, because I think that's really important, and it kind of gets sidetracked when you're talking about immigration. And I'm going to show you this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's basically the Canadian citizenship minister saying, H-1B problem, pivot to Canada. New startup visa, low taxes. There it is. In other words, you know where he is? He's in Silicon Valley. He's telling all those thousands of talented individuals that can't get H-1B visas or are applying for it to come to Canada. We'll take them. And that's against American jobs and competitiveness. And one of my main messages, too, is that immigration reform, a sound immigration bill, is good for our economy. It's good for jobs. It's good for productivity. It's good for a number of, besides the solid reasons that we're a nation of immigrants. Now, I was here last week, the Pope. I got invited to some nice events with the Pope. One of the things that he said that I'm just going to read again because I think it's at the heart of what we're talking about. And I'm going to give a little historical perspective. The 65 Immigration Act, we're going to go into some of the Simpson-Mazzoli issues. And I know you guys are experts on the current immigration debate and who's at fault and why nothing is happening. But I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those issues. Here's what the Pope said. Thousands of persons are led in search of a better life for themselves and for their loved ones in search of greater opportunities. Is this not what we want of our own children? We must not be taken back by their numbers, but view them rather as persons, seeing their faces, listening to their stories, trying to respond as we best can to their situation. Myself, the son of foreign-born parents, I was really struck by the compassion and hope in his voice. I was optimistic. I was happy. I went to that mass at Catholic University with 700,000 other people. I mean, being an ex-governor with security, I had to go through everything like everyone else did. But still, it was worth it because I saw in this man, and I try to do a lot on conflict resolution, maybe somebody that can bring people together. He's done that in the U.S. and Cuba. He's doing that with the Colombian rebels in Latin America, many other issues, climate change that I hope he is engaged in. But I was struck by that compassion and hope in his voice as he uttered these words. And I'm reminded of my mother's voice as she willed my birth in America a reality. I was brought into the United States just to be born an American. That was the sole purpose of a trip to California and Pasadena. I mentioned that I worked on the Simpson-Mazzoli Act. And what the Pope was basically saying is his message in defense of immigrants is clear. But what the Pope didn't mention and could not know is the tremendous value that these immigrants have on the American economy. Engraved at the base of the Statue of Liberty, we've all heard these words. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The American dream was born of opportunity where other countries could not provide a chance for self-betterment, but America did. America took the drive to work and made it a reality, equipping those who wanted it the means for a better tomorrow. Now, today let's look at what we have come, and let us acknowledge where we're going. And we're not exactly doing too well. Immigration is one of the most important issues we face as a country. And how we address that issue will have bearing for years, even decades to come. And I noticed in this debate, you notice what the debate is now because of Donald Trump, who I think has had a hideous effect on the immigration issue. This is where the debate is. It used to be, all right, do we have border security first and then legalization? I think the best approach was the Bush-Obama approach. Have them both simultaneously with strong conditions. Today, the debate is, because of the media coverage, and it's mainly in the Republican primaries, do we deport 11 million or not? It's a deportation debate. I mean, it's destructive. It's not going to happen. It's impractical. But that's where I think American mindset, and you can see the polls for immigration reform declining because of the tenor of this press debate. So, we celebrate this land of opportunity with a reflection on her achievements, but also a recognition of our own shortcomings. 1965. The 1965 Act modernized U.S. immigration policy, making a radical break from the past. This bill abolished the national origins quota system that was the American immigration policy since the 1920s. John F. Kennedy, who really is not given enough credit on immigration, referred to this quota system as, quote, nearly intolerable, and wanted the United States to get rid of this outdated policy. At the height of the U.S. civil rights movement, the quota system was an embarrassment. It excluded Asians and Africans from emigrating to the United States. As a young visionary president, Kennedy wanted America to have a transformational immigration policy that reflected the needs of the changing population of the 1960s America. Then Lyndon Johnson, 65, at the foot of the Statue of Liberty, signed this historic bill into law. And looking into the crowd, this is what Johnson said again. Johnson is given credit for a lot of civil rights legislation, housing, but he also signed this important immigration bill. This bill simply says, he said, that from the day forth, those wishing to immigrate to America shall be admitted on the basis of their skills and their close relationship to those already here. This is a simple test, and it's a fair test. Those who can contribute most to this country, to its growth, to its strength, to its spirit, will be the first that are admitted to this land. So the immigration bill of 65, which I want to focus on partly, helped lay the foundation for our long-term economic growth by bringing an end to the racial biases that had previously governed U.S. immigration policy. But its creation of the H-1B program helped to ensure American competitiveness for the coming decades. This program granted access to highly skilled, highly specialized engineers, doctors, entrepreneurs, and other professionals who today play a critical role in maintaining the strength of the American economy. So today, when the Immigration and Nationality Act of 65 was signed into law in concert with the civil rights movement, few people would have imagined that 50 years later, we would have made history by electing the first African-American president of the United States. We've witnessed the fall of the Berlin Wall, collapse of the Soviet Union. We've seen China undertake periods of economic reform and opening up the world economy. And 50 years ago, no one had even heard of the internet. And now it is not only in every home, but in nearly every hand. To think of the change in just 50 years, and in 50 more, how much more is there going to be? There's no telling what America can achieve. So for all this incredible transformation and growth the United States has done in this time, our immigration laws have not grown alongside it. They have not kept pace with this. According to current estimates, there are 10 to 12 million undocumented immigrants living in the shadows today. Many of these individuals, they're hardworking, toil away at 2, 3, sometimes even 4 low-paying jobs. The kind of jobs that realistically most Americans do not want to do. They do this to put food on the table for their families. These are not the criminals and rapists that Donald Trump and other candidates would have you believe, but hardworking, honest laborers, ideal Americans who want nothing more than to pay their taxes, play by the rules, and live the American dream. So I certainly don't take issue with expanding our tax base by 10 to 12 million people. I feel that it's America's prerogative to bring these individuals out behind the shadows to keep our American dream a reality. And it's important to keep in mind that immigration reform is more than just a social justice issue. It's an economic imperative. We don't hear enough about immigration reform role in creating jobs and generating business growth and sustaining our economic advantage over other countries. And let me also make another point. The legalization provisions in the bills that I've seen, they're conditions. It's not instantaneous, it's not automatic. You have to pass a background check, you have to pay back taxes, you pay a fine for coming here illegally, you have to share American values, pass an exam. I mean, they're conditions, and it takes approximately 11 years, I think the Senate bill takes that for eventually to have a shot at citizenship. So to say that this is a blanket amnesty is false. So along with Rosario Marin, the first immigrant to serve as treasurer of the United States, if you want to find out who she is, take a look at one of your dollar bills. Go back about 5 years, and she signed that. She signed that. We are co-chairs of the American Competitiveness Alliance. She's from Los Angeles. Coalition dedicated to advancing immigration policies that support our evolving and modernizing economy. And we at this alliance recognize that the globalized economy is here and now. It is time that we as a country address that reality openly and honestly. Look, whether we like it or not, our world is drastically changing. Innovations every day happen. New discoveries in the information technology sector are revolutionizing not only our nation's economy, but that of the entire world. The modern IT revolution touches nearly every industry, every business, every job. You hear almost daily of the expanded Internet of Things and the growing cloud computing infrastructure. Sensors in our cars communicating with sensors in cement. They warn of hazardous conditions and adjust driving speeds accordingly. Implants that monitor nutrient or blood content levels can respond by releasing the appropriate amount of a life-saving hormone or medication. Even something as simple as sensors for product inventories on store shelves automatic signal to warehouses and distributors when a store is running low on a product. I wonder if they can detect whether that product is good or not good. That may be a little difficult. So my colleague and dean of the Tuck School of Management, Matthew Slaughter, wrote a white paper report in April of this year. It was entitled this, IT Services, Immigration, and American Economic Strength. You can read the full white paper on our website, acalliance.org. Matt and his team examined the economic impact of immigration on America's most dynamic industries, finding that the IT revolution we are undertaking at present could create economic value worth 10 to 30% of US GDP, 10 to 30%. Literally trillions of dollars in the form of new jobs, new goods and services, and rising incomes. But he warned, as I'm warning now, that we cannot take advantage of this substantial and superior growth with insufficient global talent. We simply cannot remain competitive without access to global talent. America is a country of immigrants. After all, just think of this. Immigrants founded firms such as Google, Intel, eBay, firms that created tens of thousands of jobs in America. Today, almost 80%, listen to this, 80% of the full-time graduate students in electrical engineering in the U.S. are international students. In computer science, foreign nationals make up more than 70% of the full-time graduate students. I think that bears repeating. 4 out of 5 U.S. graduate students in electrical engineering are foreign-born, and nearly 3 in 4 in computer science are foreign nationals. And that's pretty incredible. Our leading businesses are crying out for workers with these advanced technical skills, technical knowledge, and skill sets. And although we're willing to educate foreigners to attain the necessary skills, we are as yet unwilling to do what we must do to keep them here. Instead, we send them back home. Oh, you can't stay. Or to our economic competitors who welcome them with open arms. Although I like Canada, I don't like what Canada's doing with this. I like the Canadians, but we're overdoing this. And I'm referring to the Immigration Nationality Act of 1965, the H-1B Highly Skilled Worker Program, which then is now allowed us to grow the U.S. economy through access to global talent, access to specialized skills, access to professionals needed by our leading and developing businesses in order that America maintain a competitive economic advantage. So study after study has found that H-1B visas are a vehicle for job creation and economic growth. AEI, the American Enterprise Institute, found that for every 100 H-1B workers, an additional 183 jobs are generated for U.S. natives. Unfortunately, that job growth is capped. There's an arbitrary cap of 65,000 H-1B visas per year that was originally set in 1990, outdated, well before anyone could have anticipated the effects of the modernizing economy in creating a boom in jobs requiring advanced technology skills, cloud computing, mobile and social platforms, data analytics. Now, for 2015, over 233 applications were submitted for H-1B visas, but because of the cap, more than 60% were rejected. And let's take a moment to really understand this statistic. If the American Enterprise Institute findings about job creation are correct, this would mean that America, in denying visas for workers with the knowledge and skills our nations need to grow and remain competitive, also denied the creation of more than 270,000 jobs for U.S. citizens. That's pretty appalling realization, to be sure. And to add insult to injury, the latest figures from the Bureau of Labor Statistics show that the U.S. is only meeting half of annual demand for the STEM jobs, those in science, technology, engineering, and math. While many of the highly skilled workers we're educating in U.S. colleges and universities are forced to return to China, India, Canada, Europe, and our other competitors as we fail year after year to expand the H-1B program. So while American businesses try to adapt and grow amidst economic and technological revolution, our outdated immigration policies are holding us back from our full potential. And by the way, there are some good initiatives in the Congress to address this issue. The House has a better provision, actually by a Republican chairman, that I believe makes sense, that makes significant changes to the cap. So our economic rivals are welcoming these highly skilled, often U.S. educated workers that the U.S. enabled to keep, owing to our broken visa and immigration policies. I'm not sure the gravity of this situation is really sunk in, because the debate is about these other issues, deportation, a wall. That's so ridiculous. When I was governor of New Mexico, I used to say, you know what happens if you build a 10-foot wall? An 11-foot ladder is going to emerge. And it doesn't work. It's restrictive. It makes no sense. So again, these foreign, the very H-1B holders we burden and string along and ultimately reject when they're not selected, they go and they're recruited. And this is not good for our country. President John F. Kennedy decided to reform this outdated immigration system to attract the best talent. And today, as Cato very nicely is celebrating the Historic Immigration and Nationality Act, let's look at this immigration debate as something that is good for our country. And in the previous panel, they talked about that abuse, that article in the New York Times. Well, there's always bad apples in everything. In almost every case, every issue, there's bad apples in deportation. I mean, that's a very minor example. The problem is that the overall program needs to be reformed. But yeah, I mean, some abuse the system. They should be castigated. They should be fined or whatever takes place. So I know that I've thrown a lot of issues out here. Let me just say it's good to be back in Washington, although I don't miss you. But I know all of you are, in the weeds on this immigration debate. You know more about the politics of what's happening. And I think we need some new ideas.